Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we're going to take a closer look at the side effects of trenbolone. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate that I am not a doctor, so anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I am not advising nor condoning you to use any of the substances that we discuss in here whatsoever. So let's get in there and let's dig a little deeper into the side effects to trenbolone, because trenbolone side effects are actually pretty unique in terms of comparing them to other steroids and their side effects. So I want to kind of, go into a little bit more detail than just going, well, there's insomnia, sleep disturbances, for example. There's Tren cough, but why? But why? Let's learn why. Let's take a closer look as to why. Now, obviously, side effects of any sort are largely dependent on individual responses to the compounds, personal genetics, lifestyle habits, age, gender, so many different factors. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But I'm going to go over common side effects and what causes them. I'm not saying that you would experience all of these, but there is a possibility, so you need to know about them. So increased perspiration is one. Now, that's just excessive sweating, all right? A well-known fact of Tren is its ability to exhibit an incredibly stronger nutrient partitioning effect than all other anabolic steroids. Now, this nutrient partitioning ability is in effect how all anabolic steroids work, but some exhibit this to a greater deal than others, and Tren is one of them. So the result here is an increase in the metabolic rate of an individual. And it's not, by these crazy extreme amounts, but it's still increasing the process. So although the excessive sweating can be experienced by many users at any time of day, it's particularly notorious, and most of you know this, and I hate the side effect of it, for presenting itself at night when you're asleep. And that just flat out sucks, and some people are just wake up it's like a pool of sweat. All right? But you've got to make sure that you're drinking enough water, because some people get it really bad, and this can potentially dehydrate you, and you do not want that to happen. Now, there's also insomnia, something basically known as trensomnia. This is frequently reported with Tren. It's very minor for some people, but, some people get it really bad. All right? Now, with other anabolic steroids, most people don't have it happen. I've seen it happen with Deca specifically, but Tren is by far and away worse than any other compound that you're going to run when it comes to sleep disturbances, okay? The origin and the cause of this is kind of unknown, but there's a lot of hypothetical things that are going out there, possibly, acting on various components of the body's nervous system in a type of stimulant matter. So the result commonly reported by users is the inability to fall asleep. Frequent waking up through the night, falling asleep for a couple hours, waking up, just having restless, terrible sleep. Now, many people, do experience, this with Tren, so you've got to be aware of that. They resort to sleep aids, medications, both prescriptions and over-the-counter, but it's hard to say whether you will or will not. Sometimes it's dose-dependent, it's dependent on the person. I've seen a lot of people have the problem, and they are always frequently panicking, what can I do? Unfortunately, there's not a lot that you can do. It's just kind of part of Tren, man. I mean, there's things with Tren where it's just you just have to sit back and go, well, that's just part of it. Then we've got progesterone and prolactin related issues. Now, the topic of gynecomastia and what causes it is kind of a complex topic and process that's not 100% understood when it comes to Tren. All right? The manners in which estrogen and progesterone are going to interact with one another are actually pretty complex manners. In theory, with all of this, progestins are actually regarded as inhibitors of prolactin secretion in the body. And we're talking specifically in the pituitary gland in the brain, but there's plenty out there of anecdotal evidence to support that 19-NOR compounds like Tren and nandrolone, Deca, NPP, etc., indeed do trigger, all right, an increase in prolactin in the body from the pituitary gland. Now, trenbolone itself is a progestin, and therefore it does act on progestin receptors that are located in breast tissue. So keep that in mind. Now, estrogen and prolactin receptors do both exist in breast tissue, and it's actually believed that the activity of the progestins can increase the sensitivity of estrogen receptors. So what does this mean? Well, it means that progestins, like trenbolone, when binding and activating the progestin receptor on breast tissue, can and will cause the estrogen receptor to actually become more sensitive to circulating, estrogen levels and increase the chance of gynecomastia. So this, the result is an environment in which even the lowest estrogen levels can actually trigger the development of gynecomastia. I know it's kind of complex, but you've got to learn this. Now, the intricate combination here that we're talking about of estrogen, progesterone, and prolactin create a really complex network by which gynecomastia can become an issue. So, what's your options here? Well, you may want to utilize a prolactin antagonist like a dopamine agonist, such as cabergoline, pramipexole, bromocriptine, things of that nature, which generally I do recommend. You got to control your estrogen levels by using an aromatase inhibitor, Arimidex, Aromacin. The use of vitamin B6 can also help to control prolactin levels. That's been, actually shown and demonstrated in studies using 600 milligrams daily. Just remember, each individual has to understand that although controlling estrogen levels do correlate with controlled prolactin levels from the pituitary gland, this does not seem to work for all users. Some users have demonstrated to still exhibit prolactin increases despite maintaining low estrogen levels. So you've got to be aware and control them both. And we've got some erectile dysfunction and libido issues that go on with Tren. These are commonly known by their nicknames, all right? Tren Dick and Decadick, basically. Once again, linked to the issue of prolactin increases as a result of Tren's stimulatory effects that it has on prolactin secretion at the pituitary gland. So basically, increased prolactin levels in males result in things like lactation from the nipples, erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, inability to actually achieve an orgasm, things of this nature. So, also, we've got to talk about Tren cough. I do not want to leave this out. This is the nickname that's attributed to a condition where an individual will experience a coughing fit ranging from very mild to very bad to very intense immediately after an injection. Roughly half of the side effect is a myth and rumor, okay? And the other half is truth. So with this side effect, for the most part, the result happens from hitting a vein or capillaries upon passing the needle through the tissue during an injection. So what happens here is when injecting an oil-based substance like Tren, a small amount of the oil is going to trickle into a ruptured capillary or a vein, and then it's going to enter your bloodstream, all right? So what results is the body's attempt to actually expel this foreign substance from its bloodstream by carrying the oil to the lungs to then be coughed out. All right, this is where the coughing fit's going to start and it's going to occur, but it must be made clear to everybody that any injectable oil-based anabolic steroid can do this if the oil-based substance enters the bloodstream. Now, it's largely unknown as to why Tren seems to cause more intense coughing than anything else. There's a lot of hypotheses out there that exist, but, there's nothing concrete, and I really do things on facts, okay? The coughing is rarely ever life-threatening or anything of that, but it can be extremely frightening. It can take your breath away, all right? Especially for someone that's it's happening to for the first time. And you're unsure as to why it's even happening. So just understand that. Then we've got diminished cardiovascular, capacity, which is well known. Many users claim to experience, what seems like a temporary diminished cardiovascular and pulmonary capacity during trenbolone use, which tends to seem to subside pretty shortly after Tren is discontinued. It's more than likely dose dependent, okay? And I've got a whole nother video on combating the side effects of trenbolone with GW 501-516 cardarine, and that is what you want to have going on when you're using trenbolone, especially if you're doing cardio. I'm a cardio person. I wouldn't be able to handle that. So just be aware that can help as well. Now, it's not going to happen to everybody. Okay, I do see plenty of people that say it doesn't happen. But there are a lot of people that do experience this. Now, it's a result of Tren's effect on the body in increasing amounts, of the prostaglandin. It's called F2 alpha. Now, what happens here is there's a bronchial constriction, and it makes it a lot more difficult for the user to then draw large amounts of oxygen into the lungs, especially when you're doing aerobic style training. All right. Now, just be aware that it's not going to happen to everybody, but if you're into cardio and things like that, it can happen. Then there's increased aggression and irritability. Tren is basically as strong of an androgen as it is anabolic. Okay? Its androgenic strength is 5 times that of testosterone. It has an androgenic rating of 500. All right? So it's commonly known that Tren can and does exhibit increased feelings of irritability and aggression in most users. So if you are an aggressive person by nature, you may want to avoid using Tren at all. All right? Now, there can be some increased kidney, liver, stress, things of that nature as well. I understand it's not a normal steroid, but that still doesn't mean that it can't happen. All right? It's maybe not to the extent that people think. It still is there. All right? Now, Tren presents it's just a minute amount of liver strain because of its resistance to hepatic breakdown. Now, and metabolism, but the extent which it happens is a little bit lower. You got to be aware though that this is present. It can also take a hit on your blood pressure and cholesterol as well. So you've got to be prepared for that, and that's another reason that I've recommended GW 501-516 with it, because it also helps in those areas as well. So this is a rundown of the side effects of Tren so you can get a better understanding of them. But just be aware, when people tell you Tren is no joke, that Tren is not for, users that aren't experienced, things of that nature, nobody's just saying that just to say it or to be a jerk. They're saying it because you can see this list of side effects. It's long. And you need to get yourself used to, to having different sorts of substances in your body before you jump straight to something like this that causes this many problems. Ease your body into things. Be smart about it. Don't go for the home run right off the bat, because it's not going to work out for you. It's just not. It's not a good thing. You want to do this right. You want some longevity. You want some health, like I always preach. Step by step by step, and learned this compound just like all the other compounds, but especially Tren, inside and out before you start using it. So that being said, www.icerms.com/forums. I'm also in the evolutionary forum as well as the elite fitness forum. You can also email me, dylan@icerms.com. Check the descriptions below. All my information is down there, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli signing off.